Russian anti-war activist sentenced to 6 years in prison for internet posts.
Here's a summary of the article.
Following the criticism, US officials and British intelligence have noted gains by Ukrainian forces as they attempt to break through heavily fortified Russian defenses in Ukraine's southeast. In an intelligence assessment issued on September 2, the British Defense Ministry said that the Ukrainian military had reached Russia's main defensive line in parts of southern Ukraine and that Russian forces were fighting to halt the counter-offensive. British intelligence said that the Russian military was continuing its own offensive in the north, near Kupiansk, in Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region. On September 2, Russia said that its forces thwarted 3 sea drone attacks on the strategic Crimea bridge linking Ukraine's occupied Crimean peninsula to the Russian mainland, as Ukraine's military said it was continuing its push to cut off the land bridge to Crimea in Ukraine's southeast. Kyiv has repeatedly stated that it considers the rail and vehicle bridge used to supply Russian forces fighting in Ukraine to be a legitimate military target. Oleksiy Danilov, Ukraine's Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council, told National Radio on September 2 that Kyiv's forces are now capable of reaching targets in Russian territory that are up to 1,500 kilometers away using its own weapons as Ukraine continues to develop its missile and drone programs. Ukraine's military intelligence said on September 1 that a recent drone attack on an airport in northwestern Russia that damaged several transport planes was carried out from within Russian territory.
This post received a score of 8,200, with an upvote ratio of 96%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Greater than. The 54-year-old activist of the peaceful resistance movement was arrested in May 2022. Investigators say she placed materials about Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine on the internet that contradicted official defense ministry statements.
What baby men feel so intimidated by the reality that they lock up people brave enough to tell the truth?
I find it supremely ironic that in times of war, anti-war protesters are often portrayed, quite falsely, as cowards. But how much of a coward is the person who's so threatened by peaceful protesters and their message, that they feel compelled to throw them into a cage with hardened criminals?
I feel these lines from the German War Resistance Memorial are really poignant here. You did not bear the shame. You resisted. You bestowed the eternally vigilant signal to turn back by sacrificing your impassioned lives for freedom, justice and honor.
Serious question. What is the best thing a single Russian citizen did to help end the war? And conversely, what can Russian citizens do as a whole to help end the war? And is there anything they can do that reduces risk of harm to them or their families?
Nothing at this point. Unless the elites and some sort of foreign entities decide to overthrow the regime, it won't be coming from the inside, because it's a military dictatorship now.
That's sad. Is there like some percentage found about what percent is against but unable to go to war and percent of those brainwashed favoring it in Russia? Or are those numbers too difficult to obtain?
Any statistics done today will likely be inaccurate. Like for example, my parents who are against the war won't talk about it even on the phone with me. So any public polls paid for by the government to appear on major TV channels naturally will only have people who support the war, or chose to say that they do when caught off guard for safety. That being said, yes, sadly there are a lot of people who are brainwashed enough to think the war is a good thing that's liberating? Someone in Ukraine, I guess, but a lot of people also see it for what it is, an invasion. It's all very sad.
She was sentenced for 6 years for spreading fake news. Well, if that's the case, Putin and the Kremlin should be all serving life sentences.
Putin decides what's true, so it's impossible for Putin or the Kremlin to spread fake news.
Fake news has become almost a meaningless term since certain politicians used it relentlessly to try to discredit anything they don't like.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.